You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. And be sure to smash that like button. Brian Kelly and the LSU Tigers picked up another commitment over the weekend. Derek Meadows, the big receiver out of Bishop Gorman in Las Vegas. Man, what a heater it has been over the last month. Our buddy Sam Spiegelman, a national recruiting analyst for Rivals and Yahoo, on Twitter at Sam Spiegs, good enough to join us, give us some perspective. Sam, how are you, man?
Doing well, Matt. How's it going?
I'm doing really good, man. Can you put into perspective just how impressive the last month has been for the Tigers, netting 8 commitments?
Yeah, well, everyone loves to, kind of, hey, why is my class here in your Alabama and LSU? Why are you ranked 12th and 15th in the country in the middle of June when the kids are on summer break and everything? And after camp season, after the staff kind of gets their boards in order, this is when it picks up. And after official visit season, after camp season, and what Brian Kelly and his staff have been doing has been piling up targets, and they've been doing so at a national clip. They jumped into the top 5 of the country with the past 2 commitments, a pair of top 100 players, Derek Meadows out of Bishop Gorman in Vegas, like you alluded to, and really hitting the home run of 5-star DJ Pickett out of Zephyr Hills in Florida a couple of days earlier. They've already managed to pick up commitments from a couple of in-state guys. They picked up Destrehan State DJ Thomas a little bit earlier this month, and have a couple of targets still on the board for the rest of this month and August. But, they're just finding their glide on the recruiting trail right now. It's that time of the year. It's everyone getting ready to go back to school, and this is when LSU wants to get their foundation in place so they can do their march in the season as well.
Sam, one of the knocks I think that I heard from Notre Dame people about Kelly, of course, is that he couldn't recruit or didn't recruit or was a lazy recruiter, whatever narrative that is. Clearly, they're kind of bucking that narrative right now, but I'm curious, how much of that or this success is Brian? How much of it does he deserve credit for building a staff of great recruiters? Can you just give some perspective on the big picture umbrella perspective of Brian Kelly, the recruiter?
Yeah, if I'm going to be frank with you, several years ago, I've heard stories about Brian Kelly as the head coach of Notre Dame that kind of a standoffish guy, not a great recruiter, hard to get a hold of sometimes. But, since he's been here at LSU and I've been able to kind of be around that program the last couple of years, see how he's operated, first off, I speak about this at length. The staff he put together is phenomenal. Obviously the amount of Louisiana focus that is on the staff, especially at this point in time, entering year 3, who he's hired to be his offensive and defensive coordinators are Louisiana guys. You have Joe Sloan, Cortez Hankton, and Blake Baker now. You have Corey Raymond back. You have Bo Davis back. You have Frank Wilson as the associate head coach and basically the CEO of these operations. The guys behind the scenes are Louisiana guys, but it all does start with Brian Kelly at the top. First of all, from what I understand, he signs off on every decision, no matter how big or how small it is. Nothing goes without his saying, without his approval. But he's put together, obviously, a staff that is so capable. Half of these guys are either can be head coaches or will be head coaches the next couple of years. They're some of the best professionals in this business, whether it's recruiters or coaches or combinations of both. And I think right now you're seeing, I always talk about the Louisiana influence, but like I just said, they're recruiting at a national level. You talk about Cortez Hankton going into Bishop Gorman and beating out Alabama and Notre Dame for a top 100 receiver. You're talking about Corey Raymond from New Iberia, Louisiana, beating out Miami and Oregon in an NIL world for DJ Pickett from Zephyr Hills, Florida. So this staff is extremely competent, but you can't do any of this without the work of Brian Kelly at the top.
Sam Spiegelman's with us on Twitter at Sam Spiegs, Spiegs, if you want to give him a follow. One of the interesting things, too, about this class, Sam, is it feels like LSU is aiming big on every prospect, particularly wide receiver, corner that we're talking about. And they've missed on some, right? But they've hit on I guess, their share as well. Maybe just your thought on that approach, Sam, to like taking your moonshot, like at seemingly every guy at the top of the class, in particular those two positions and where they've landed right now?
Yeah, well, I don't need to tell you. You already know. I mean, they had Zakorian Moore committed for a good portion of the past year. Not to mention they already had their top early in-state target, Teron Francis, committed at Edna Carr, obviously one of the stalwart programs in the state. So they had two commits for a good portion of the time, while also recruiting guys like Khalik Lockett, who is universally a top 100, top 50 sort of player in the country. In the mix with Jamie French, another one of those guys who's top 50 on every single site that you look at. And in the end, they end up with Derek Meadows, who they just got on campus for a midweek official visit in June. And like I said before, beat out Alabama and Notre Dame, two schools that have been recruiting him way longer. I think the staff being able to adjust and readjust and refocus and when it's LSU, it's a lot of pressure to recruit your own state, but to be able to go national and reassess the board, readjust. I mean, talk about how good these recruiters are, but at the wide receiver position, LSU not only has Cortez Hankton with a fantastic resume, but you look at they just put out two receivers in the first round, and you walk in, you come visit LSU for your official visit, and you got the statues of Odell Beckham and Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas and Jamar Chase, and you see Kyron Lacey and Chris Hilton, who look like they're going to be poised to be Biletnikoff winners this year, potentially. So I think at the wide receiver position, they've been able to refocus and reassess their targets at extremely high clip, given with Meadows now jumping on board. And at DB, this is LSU, and not only do they have a great reputation of recruiting DBs, but probably the biggest position besides interior D-line that they need to adjust on this roster. And they just hit the biggest home run they could have with DJ Pickett. LSU was in a good spot for most of the offseason, don't get me wrong, but after his official visit, Miami and Oregon both probably jumped to the forefront with DJ Pickett, and LSU for, I would say, at least 2 weeks felt like they were in a tough spot at a premium position. So for Corey Raymond to come back and win out this battle, get an early commitment from DJ Pickett, I think speaks volumes. They missed on Jabari Antoine, which is obviously tough. They already had him committed at one point. But again, this is a recruitment with an in-state kid that they feel confident they'll get back in Tiger Stadium before he makes his final decision. With Corey Raymond back, I think you're going to have a better grip nationally on that position. And as well, going into senior season, no one's going to have a closer eye on senior evals to make moves on sleepers. Maybe some flips along the way as well.
Sam, I want to ask you about one more defensive back. I want to ask you about Jonah Williams, who's going to be here for the Bayou Splash this weekend, out of Texas. And we were talking about him a bit ago. Really, I mean, the number one safety, but also a really elite baseball talent as well. Sam, I don't know what you know about him and his recruitment. I can't help but wonder, for a guy that's that highly thought of in baseball, like, does he get to a college campus? Like, what can you tell us about that situation?
Yeah, LSU's did this a couple of years ago with Maurice Williams, I believe his name was.
Mo Hampton, yeah.
Mo Hampton, right.
Yep.
So we've seen this before, but the difference between Mo Hampton and Jonah Williams is, like you said, he's a phenomenal baseball player. He's also a fantastic football player, and he's playing this new hybrid defensive back/linebacker role where you can cover and drop back into coverage and also get after the quarterback, and he's freaky athletic. I think he'll make it. I think he wants to play at least, he wants to dabble in both sports, which I think he's perfectly adept at doing. The interesting thing about Jonah is he's had a lot of twists in his recruitment. He's had a lot of different leaders at different points of the past 7-8 months, from Oklahoma to Oregon to A&M, and now he's getting ready to get back to Baton Rouge. He's been a top target for Blake Baker since he got back here. And he's supposed to get back to Austin, which was a team that was buzzing early on in his recruitment. Both of those teams obviously are not just recruiting at a very high clip. They also have elite baseball programs. So it's something he's definitely taking into consideration. And you'd be remiss to not think that baseball factors in. Last year, Oklahoma made a late surge for Taylor Tatum, who was a fantastic dual sport football and baseball player. After USC had been buzzing all offseason, Oklahoma came in late, and you have to credit Oklahoma's baseball coach for closing there. So this could get very interesting over the next couple of weeks, and some baseball coaches and football coaches are definitely going to be involved with Jonah.
And last thing, I'm glad you brought up Texas and OU there, Sam, because I'm just curious, just being out there sort of from a national perspective, have you noticed any differences just in the recruiting circles with Texas and OU being in the SEC?
Yeah, I think that they know that they're coming to the SEC, and they've known that they're coming to a different conference for about a year, maybe 2 years at this point. You've seen the emphasis on big guys in the trenches. They're very well aware. I think that, like LSU, like schools around the country, like SEC schools and Big Ten schools in particular, they are loading up in their front offices to do not only transfer portal evals and high school evals, but roster evals, and say, if we're going to compete in the SEC, which everyone knows is the premier conference of college football, then we need to have defensive and offensive linemen that are going to be able to compete with the Georgias and Bamas and LSUs of the world, where they have first-round picks on both sides of the ball and growth. So I think, the way that, you saw some of the battles that LSU had for their defensive linemen last year, they were going head-to-head with Texas for a good amount of them, just as many or more than they were going with Alabama and Georgia. And I think that Oklahoma, under Brent Venables, has a very national scope. They recruit the Midwest. They recruit the Southeast. They've recruited Louisiana under Brent Venables. They recruit Texas. They recruit all over. You've seen Texas do the same thing, go Southeast all the way to the West Coast. They're looking for big bodies that supplement depth at premium positions on both sides of the line.
He's on Twitter at Sam Spiegs, a national recruiting analyst for Rivals and Yahoo. Good to catch up as always, man. We appreciate a few minutes.
Yep, good to talk to you, Matt.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.